In this video, we're going to cover how to calculate trig values in the unit circle. The method that we'll be using is by creating some of our special right triangles and then setting up the ratio for sine, cosine, and tangent. For this, we're going to be referring back to SOHCAHTOA to help us remember what sine, cosine, and tangent represent. And we're going to be using two different special right triangles. The first is a 30, 60, 90 with a radius of 1, or a hypotenuse of 1. In the unit circle, the radius is 1, so that's why this is an important triangle to know. Across from the 30, the side length is 1/2. Across from the 60, it is root 3 over 2. The decimal value equivalent for this is about 0.86, so you can see that if this is 1, this side is exactly half the length of that, and this side is 0.86, a little bit less than 1. The other special right triangle that we will see is a 45, 45, 90. It's isosceles. Again, the radius is 1, and this time the side lengths are root 2 over 2 for both, which is approximately equal to 0.707. But again, we'll use this fraction with the radical 2 divided by 2, although we know the approximation is 0.707. All right, so let's dive in. So in our first problem, we're going to just do sine of pi over 3. Okay, so first let's set up our unit circle. We know that pi is 180 degrees, so that would be right here. So a third of pi, or 180 divided by 3, would tell me that that's a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to refer back to my 30, 60, 90. I know that across from the 60 is this side length, root 3 over 2. And across from the other side will be 1/2 and a 1. So since I'm asked for sine, that is the opposite side, right here, and the hypotenuse, which is just 1. So that would be the square root of 3 over 2 over 1, which is just root 3 over 2. And that is my final answer for the sine of pi over 3. Okay, let's take it into a different quadrant. This was in quadrant 1. Let's do an example where we might end up, let's say, in quadrant 3. So let's calculate this time cosine of 7 pi over 6. Okay, so we're going to draw our unit circle again. Again, feel free to pause, rewind, go back. It's the beauty of the video. So we have our unit circle. Sorry, that was kind of ugly, but that's okay. 7 pi over 6. So if you don't already know like what angle that's going to be, we know that we can do 7 times, so 180 divided by 6 is 30 degrees. This is 7 times 30 degrees, which is 210. Okay, so 210 degrees. So the question is, what angle will that be? Like, what angle is this right here? Well, I know this is 180. So this is going to be, from 180 to 210 is 30 degrees. So that means we're going to be using our 30, 60, 90 again. So I'm looking up here, across from 30 is 1/2. That means the other side is root 3 over 2 and 1. But because we're doing this and we are in the third quadrant, since we are left and down, we're going to have to put negatives on here. Negative and negative, because this is left root 3 over 2 and down 1/2. Okay, so cosine is the adjacent side, so SOHCAHTOA, the adjacent side to the angle. It's also always on the x-axis, the length of the x-axis. So this, that would be negative root 3 over 2 divided by the hypotenuse, which is 1. Again, we can basically ignore that. And my final answer is negative root 3 over 2. All right, let's do a quick example of tangent. Hopefully this is so far okay. When we do tangent, it will involve the additional step of simplifying the fraction a little bit more. As you can imagine, like if we have the opposite divided by the adjacent, it's going to set us up a little bit differently. So let's actually just use this same triangle here. Let's just calculate in blue tangent of 7 pi over 6. So we already know where we are in the triangle. We already know we're at 210 degrees, which is a 30-degree triangle. So we have our side lengths labeled. Tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So I'm going to set that up, and it's negative 1/2 over negative root 3 over 2. Wow, a lot of stuff happening. Okay, so a couple pieces here. We've got, like, when you are dividing fractions, I like to think about keep, change, flip. So you change it to multiplication and you flip that second fraction upside down. What you'll notice is that the 2's will cancel each other out, and we'll be left with negative 1 over root 3. You can also visualize that here. See how the 2's just drop out at that point. If that's easier for you, that's totally fine. And we're left with this as our fraction. Sometimes this is written rationalized. So to rationalize, oh, and look, the negatives actually will cancel each other out, won't they? So really our final answer is 1 over positive root 3. Sometimes that can be rationalized to be root 3 over 3. That work is that you take your number with a radical in the bottom and you multiply it times that radical, so that cancels out and becomes just 3 in the bottom. Some people prefer that, or would argue that this is more simplified because it doesn't have a radical in the bottom, although this is technically a correct answer as well. So I'm going to actually leave it like that, 1 over root 3 as my final answer, but again, recognizing that this may also be how it is expressed. All right, hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, comment, whatever you got.